Hey everybody, this is Perch. So I kind of think I've done a bit of a disservice, maybe many types of disservices. Right now, there's a comic writer who's like, "Ha! Finally, he understands." Anyway, I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I don't know. Anyway, um, to me, I want to I want to back into this a little bit. By the way, this video is not a cry for help. I'm not looking for people in the comments to go, "Oh, Perch, but we love you." That is not the purpose of this. I'm not none of that. But I want to talk about where I think I went astray a little bit. So the purpose of this channel was outlined in the very first video, like literally the first one. If you feel like, scrolling back, view page 5083, you can get to that very first video and it's right there. And, we've had a lot of twists and turns in the world. We've had a pandemic, we've had comics change, I've had massive lifestyle changes in this amount of time. My younger daughter, who now edits the videos, including this very one you're listening to, was 5 when this channel was started. 5. So, life changes and people change for sure. But by and large, the core message of this channel, what I was trying to do with it was I liked talking to people in a comic shop. It was fun to do that. And sometimes I got to do that a lot more when I was younger. Every now and then in my life, I did consulting work and I could just work out of a shop. Sometimes, months or even years would go by where I owned the shop. I didn't really get to go into it. I took personal satisfaction of going into the shop and not putting it away, putting up the comics on Tuesday night. I enjoyed that. I would make it a point, even after it was a long day of, really serious business like work, to actually go do that. That was stress relief. So even, very, very common, I get a meeting with, well, let's just say I was in a room with one of the a fairly senior person of a company people bitch about 100% of the time. And I would go into the shop. I'm in my suit and tie. I'd take the tie off. I'd take the suit jacket off. I'm there now in my dress pants, dress shirt, and I'm putting away comics until about 11 o'clock at night. And it was fun. I enjoyed the conversations in comic shops. And so when I did this channel, I wanted to kind of steer into those conversations. And then somewhere along the line, I got the brilliant idea of I don't have to come up with the topics. I can just, solicit you guys to write emails and then I'll, perfect. I will just answer those questions. And we went through a negativity phase, certainly through comics, where a lot of people were upset about comics and everything else. A lot of the videos were responding to those questions. But by and large, from 2010 to 13 to 16 to 19 to 21 to 23 to today, there's always been comics every week I enjoyed. If you go back and listen to some of the very early videos or some of my appearances on Wes's show when it was just getting started, I'd go on those live streams. One of the things I used to push, and in my own word, here's some good comics I enjoyed, both old and new. And there's always old and new comics to enjoy. But one of the things that I felt like I could bring to the channel, and this is really where I'm getting to where I may have gone astray. One of the things I felt like I could bring to the channel that others couldn't, and that I felt people were interested in, and then you all, because you're also guilty, we're bringing everybody into this. You all encouraged this. It was talk about the business of running a shop, the business of why comics were the way they were. What does it mean from an investment perspective on returnability? What is paper cost? What is margin like? This was stuff that not a lot of people have had experience in, but I have firsthand on many different fronts, either running a shop or helping as a publisher or doing consulting work outside of comics where a lot of these principles still apply, taking a company, filing for an IPO, all this kind of stuff I've been involved in and I enjoyed it. And honestly, and I don't think I don't think I'm revealing anything negative. One of the early conversations I had with the great Sean Gordon Murphy was around business. We talked about some of the business elements, and it was fun to talk to him because I learned stuff about drawing, and kind of how he sees things creatively and how he does his thing. And I think he got some value because he learned about some of how the business works. And I had a similar feeling, by the way, although I don't, I didn't talk much about business with him, but this is kind of an aside. I love learning things, and one of the guys who I learned a lot from new stuff from was Brett Booth, and I'm sure Brett has no idea of any of this, by the way. But the first time I chatted with Brett, I got we were just talking about technique, and he was talking about how there's a lot of cheats you can use to kind of get the pages done and focus on the important parts. He was going through this in the way I don't know. He wasn't saying anything completely unique and novel has never been said anywhere else. But the way he said it sunk into me, and that's a memory now. I mean, God, I interviewed Brett 6 years ago, I want to say, and I mean, it can't be that long, but anyway, it was a long time ago. And I learned stuff. Kari Andrews is another one. Learned a lot from him. In conversations, not interview, but conversations I have at a con, I learned stuff from Ben Templesmith and Jim Zub. And anyway, I can go on and on. A lot of things I've learned. But anyway, I've talked about the business. Now, fast forward to 2025, and I find that people are talking about the business more, but not intelligently. And I don't mean anything by this. Well, there's no way to say that, and it's not an insult when I say it's not intelligent. Yeah, I understand it's an insult. It sounds like an insult. It's not sugarcoated, but I don't mean it maliciously. I'm just saying a lot of people talk about the business, and I hear a lot of comments made, but the comments are they're nonsensical. And they it's like we've learned some things on how the business works, and I see a lot of people copying my style. There's a guy who did a sales video, and he's like, "Hey, check it out. What do you think?" And I watch it, and I'm like, "Oh my God, no, you went horribly wrong, horribly wrong." Basically, the guy was taking sales. It was clever in a way, but he took sales videos of what Batman was doing during a particular run, like he's fighting the Joker. And it's like, he fought the Joker in the 70s, and there was mass distributions. Let's just take these numbers from 2017 and multiply them by 80, because that's what distribution is. And then this run had the Joker, and this run had the Joker, so it must be about the same. And it's like, no, no, my friend, no, that's not how it. No, none of that works at all. You're it's not misinformation you're putting out. It's crazily bad information. It's like anyway, um, but it's funny because if you've ever run a shop or been in a shop, you definitely have different personalities that come in. You have people come in, and Marvel is the devil. They will tell you everything started when everything went wrong. It was Marvel that made it wrong. What I would call is there's a persona of the Marvel screwed everything up in the 90s and was a predatory, destructive company personality. And then there's the Marvel screwed everything up in 2016 because of woke. And those are kind of two different people that complain about that stuff. But you definitely have those people. And you also have the DC or for children or retards kind of guy. I'm just these are personalities that you get. And then you get the indies are full of gross sex and violence person. And you have these personalities that come in, you learn to kind of spot them. And then you also learn to kind of steer them away. Cause a lot of these guys, especially the really like all Marvel ruined the industry forever, 40 years ago, or DC's always been stupid. Those two personality types will stand by the register and actively like crap on customers that are coming up to buy stuff. And that's always been my red line, by the way, in a shop. If I'm selling comics to somebody, what they come up and they put on the counter with their cash is their business. And if, either a worker or a customer starts like berating somebody over their purchase, like, "Oh, you're buying Squirrel Girl? What are you, some kind of fucking idiot?" It's like, nope, that's their cash, their business. You don't, you shut the fuck up. You buy your own stuff. But anyway, I going back to the actual premise, I think the business stuff's fascinating because, guys, this has been my life, literally my life. I take joy in the business aspects of things. Whether it's comics or any company, I have, if I've taken a company public with a group of people, not just me, with a group of people. That process is amazing. All the different twists and turns and everything. I love it. I guarantee you, many of you would not. It is not something for everyone. It is not something that everybody would enjoy, but I did, and I do. So I'm excited to talk to some of these things about all of you. But in my heart, the core of what's cool about comics is not the margin and the retailer, the paper and the distribution, the supply chain and all that stuff. The cool part about comics is, holy shit, Wolverine is busting through this crystal palace. He's got the power of a god and he gives it back because he knows that the heart of the samurai kind of beats within the warrior frame. Or, Hal Jordan brutally crawls his way back to redemption after committing unspeakable kind of genocidal acts. And yes, there's something inside of him, but he's got to reckon with the fact that he was that vessel that did this, or, and on it goes. I mean, the amazing Zot discovering his humanity and then failing at it, Shade the Changing Man losing himself to the world around him. All of these amazing moments in comics is the joy. That's what's in my heart. That's what gets me excited. The business is frosting. The business is also cool. And I love, now you love the comics. Now let's look at the mechanics of how all these things get into your hands. To me, that's just awesome. But I think some of the business stuff's gone awry a little bit. We're too. It's not that it's wrong for people to think about it. It's just at some point the business serves the comics, not the comics serves the business. If you catch my meaning. Anyway, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I just I don't know. I I find myself a lot in situations where I'll come in and I'll help somewhere and do something, and then I look around and the people I'm around, like it's like we're not the same. I'm here wanting to discuss. For me, look at current Marvel storylines. Where does Marvel go after one world under Doom? Where does it go? I mean, you've actually kind of broken the universe in a bunch of places. How do you recover from that? Oh, Hickman's doing this Imperial thing. Like, what is this just another kind of shuffling, or are we going to get some substantial change? Let's talk about that. That's interesting to me. Hey, got this Age of Revelation thing in the X-Men. Um, does it all just go back to the way it was? Like, is the storyline after this is done is just the X-Men hanging out in New Orleans and Alaska again, or are we doing something else? Like, what? These are interesting things to speculate alongside the why can't comics be cheaper? Why can't distribution be better? Why can't all these things? And from time to time, people ask me, "Hey, why you go on some of these shows with some of these people who are just super negative?" Well, because I love comics, and I talk personally with some of these guys, and I think they love comics too. It's just there's nothing wrong with talking about the business. It just we've lost something, I believe, in this whole situation. We've lost a little bit of the balance. It's not like we need equal time to good comics and bad comics, or good comics or something that's failed us or whatever. People should talk about wherever the conversation goes. But to me, the barometer always swings back to comics I love and memories of comics I love, new and old. Um, to me, when I say something like Kamala Harris, Kamala Khan, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. No, Kamala Harris, Ms. Marvel. No, can you imagine that actually for just, sorry, Kamala Khan, Kamala Khan. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Miss Marvel. Anyway, I didn't like the Miss Marvel travels through time. I don't like that Miss Marvel, Kamala, is a mutant now. I think the Inhuman story was unique and novel, and I get that the Inhumans thing has fizzled out and kind of, is dead. But I also think it's, I would have stuck with it. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a home run today. A unique origin for her will serve her 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I have actually confidence some writers will come in there and write some great stories for her at some point. It is possible. You may not be interested in it. That's okay. But there's a quote. I took my daughter to see the Demon Slayer movie. By the way, spoilers. Well, not really spoilers, but that's part one of three. If you're like me and you sit in this thing and you start looking at your watch 2 hours in, and you're like, when the Christ is this movie ever going to end? And it goes 2.5 hours. And then it's like, and all right, and here we'll just roll the credits right in the middle of an action scene. It's like, what the hell? And then one of the other kids, because you made the mistake of taking a group of kids there, including your daughter, to this thing, and then one of them leans over and is like, "This is part one of three," and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, it's a good movie, but preparation means a lot. Anyway, there's a quote in this first is this movie, the first Infinity Castle Demon Slayer movie, that it means something else, but I liked it, and I'm taking it for something else. if you're not dead yet, there's still hope. Is basically the quote. If there's not, if you know, if you haven't died, you're still fighting. And I think, when people are like, "Oh, comics are dead, comics are over. Oh, what is ever going to happen?" Blah 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 blah. To me, it's that part of the conversation always just it doesn't compute. It doesn't register. It doesn't sink into my heart because it to me, if you're not dead yet, there's still hope. If you're not dead yet, you can win tomorrow. You're still in the game, and you there's another chance to win tomorrow, next week, next month. That is how I view life. That's how I view comics. That's how I view all these things. And if I talk about the business, it's because it's interesting to me. But at the end of the day, don't tell me that it's all over. If you're not dead yet, you can still win. Thanks for listening.